Support for the Pursuit of Music podcast is brought to you by Brooke Music. Brooke Music is a family of retail specialists who unify their professional skills and talents in order to focus on the needs of music education and educators. Their main goal is to increase the number of active instrumental music makers. Their objectives include, number 1, maintain strong working relationships for the lifespan of the music maker's career, and number 2, encourage the love and participation in music, and finally, number 3, being an active advocate for support of music in the schools. The voice of music education drives our actions. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Brooke Music.
Good morning. We have a special guest on. We have Mr. Evan Jones. If you wouldn't mind, say hi and
hi,
give
everyone.
us a little bit of your background.
Sure. I'm a senior parent at Prosper High School. My son Drew is a trumpet in the marching band. I'm ate up by the marching band. Didn't know a thing about it until my son first got into it as a freshman, and I've just been consumed by it since then, and look forward to every show, every performance on Friday night. So
I feel like that's a very common perspective especially from I think Texas parents, because a lot of the times in Texas we have football and we're super famous for football, and then I think kiddos start out as athletes. A lot of them start out as athletes and then they kind of go down the band route.
Right.
And I think parents such as yourself figure out that band might be bigger than football some instances. So
you know what the amazing thing is I think band is big because of football.
Yes, I've heard the same thing. The correlation between those two things. Because if you look, let's name off the big programs, right? Flower Mound, Marcus, Hebron. Now, I think Allen is the other side of the bell curve, right? Where you have so many kids in the marching band that it's hard to create, super fast-moving drill moves and all that kind of stuff. So talk to us a little bit about before Drew got into band, and then what it was like watching, let's say, going into your first band competition, what you learned in that first competition.
Sure. So before Drew got into band, I didn't know the first thing about marching band. I had never been involved with it. My wife had a little bit back home. I didn't know the first thing about it. So I was like, okay, this is his thing. I'm going to support him in it. He was fortunate his freshman year. He got to be a primary marcher after the practices and things wrapped up. And in the first competition, I was just like, wow, this is a big deal that, multiple bands there. And then the next question is, well, how do they score this? How do they know who's better? So I just took a little time to start reading on the websites, whether it was the UIL or BOA websites, to understand at least how the scoring goes on.
Right.
Now, like you said, his freshman year at these competitions, a lot of I call them national powers, where the Hebrons, Marcuses, Flower Mounds, and I'm like...
The marching bands where they show up and they got a power ranking number next to them.
Exactly. I'm like...
This one's number 2 in the nation. Yeah.
How are we ever going to compete with this?
Right.
And it was funny because Mr. Alstron at the time, he was like... I asked him and he just looked at me and he goes, that's where we have to be.
Yeah.
It was as simple as that. That's where we have to be as a program. So.
Did you know that Mr. Alstron had come from a program that actually achieved that level? Or was it just one of those things where you were trusting him?
No, I knew that. Going in, knew a couple of other band families that already had kids in the program, so we kind of learned really quickly that, we're well positioned to be a good band and continue the growth that they're experiencing. So
yeah, it's sort of casting the vision. It's hard to see, I think, whenever you have that first year, let's say it's 2014 in Prosper, it's hard to see yourself. That's what Mr. Alstron and having kids like Drew Jones helps with this. But Mr. Alstron's really good at saying we need to be like that in 3 years, and he knows the part of it is the connections. Part of it, I think, the biggest part of it is having the kiddos. Like Drew and Caleb Belanger, who's been on the podcast recently, and all the folks that we know. It's huge to have kids like that to try to turn a program around and make it into what it is today. And like Mr. Alstrom mentioned on the last podcast, they weren't bad whenever they started.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things where they had to put the systems into place and kind of let the machine roll from there. So part of what we're going to be talking about here is there's probably a slew of parents who have no idea what's going to happen on Saturday.
Yeah.
And we want to just give them some perspective. So can you, in the best way that you can, sort of walk us through what Saturday is going to look like?
Right, absolutely. So Saturday, number one, it will be a very long day for any parents that attend, and the students. Obviously, very long day for them. They have to report earlier than us to the school to begin their rehearsals and get all that ready.
Should we say what Saturday is? I mean, I know what it is, but the person watching
it's what we call the Heb.
Yeah, the HEB marching contest. Yeah, that's one of the. So it's one of the first contests of the season. So.
Yes,
which is extremely exciting, and it's for anybody who doesn't know, it's legitimately the equivalent of an opening week of college football or an opening week of professional football. The same buildup that let's say you have that annoying uncle that is Justin, the most avid Cowboys fan that has ever existed. That's what all of these kids feel like times a gazillion because they're so. I mean, think about it this way: since July 20-something, they have been using the majority of their time and the bulk of their time to prepare for really this thing right here that we're about to experience on Saturday. So it is the HEB marching contest.
Yes.
And so that's at Pennington Field in, I believe it's in Bedford. It's south of 183, so it should be in Bedford. And if you are a parent who's listening to this, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to go just to experience what a band competition is like. Because at the football games, I'm just going to say this real quickly. At the football games, there's talking everywhere, right?
yes.
So it's so annoying to me, but you can't really quiet the crowd. But at these competitions, it is silent. So for the first time, you really get to hear what it's like for your student and the entire band program to play in a quieted stadium, which is a completely new and very cool experience. So that being said, so HEB marching contest is Saturday. So what are we expecting?
Yes. So the first thing I've been trying to drive home with some of the parents and stuff, and is the magnitude of this competition. Even though it's the first competition of the year for the band, there will be some really good bands there. So I kind of liken it to football. In football, you have your preseason games, your scrimmages. Mm-hmm. These kids are hitting the ground running, going up against some of the best bands in DFW and some of the best bands in Texas on their very first week. So I encourage everyone to turn out for it. Be there. Let's pack the stands and support the kids as much as possible. I know, you think, well, what impact can I have by just sitting in the stands? The kids know who are up there. They can judge it by the cheering that goes on. And if we have a big turnout, it just shows how much we support the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I would say. The day itself, the first thing is please arrive early. It gets crowded there. You have multiple bands. All the supporters for each of those bands coming in and out. Arrive early. The lines at the ticket window can get very long. And what I would like to caution a lot of the new parents about is the reason you need to get there early is because they do shut the stands down just before each band performs.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you're running late and they shut the stands off, you won't get in to see Prosper perform. So be there early. Ticket lines are long. It's going to be crowded. Just have patience. And so that's kind of what the day will start out and look like.
It's kind of like going to a concert.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. There's kids everywhere. There's the parents, all the supporters in and out of the building. And I will say this for the HEB competition, they have it set up really well, I think. Everything moves very fast.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to stand, other than the ticket line, it's not like you're standing around just waiting in a line for a very long time. So they have it set up very well. There'll obviously be souvenirs there, all the T-shirts, patches. If your kid's new to marching band, I'm sure they're going to want a patch from HEB.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
The letter jacket's a big deal.
To fill out the letter jacket, absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. Particularly for young folks. Mm-hmm.
I believe we perform in the middle or early afternoon. So one of the things you can do as a spectator and I believe HEB does allow them in, is especially if it's sunny, bring an umbrella.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just remember that when other bands are performing, make sure you fold it back down so you're not obstructing the view of other audience members.
Mm-hmm.
But because in the past at competitions, I have sat there and baked.
Yeah, sunblock, big time. Yeah.
All of it. Sunblock,
Sunglasses.
hydrate. I know we tell the kids all the time, hydrate. You need to hydrate before you leave the house because it can get warm in the afternoons. So
Yeah.
Well, if I'm a parent and I'm driving from Prosper, what kind of interaction, obviously outside of the performance, what kind of interaction can I expect to have with my kiddo? Particularly between we're going to make the assumption that we're going to make finals, okay? Because we've made finals, I think, every year that we've gone, except for the first year.
Right.
So what between prelims and finals, what does that look like, and what can I interact with my kiddo, and can I talk with them? Because I'd like to probably talk with them and be a part of that experience. So what can I expect between preliminary performance and finals performance?
yeah, so absolutely. There's a lot of time to interact with your kid if they'll let you. Drew's always like, yeah, but no, he's very good and he has no problem with that. But yes, there's plenty of time to interact with your kid. The only thing I would recommend is when it starts getting close to showtime and they're getting ready to go to warm-ups and their various staging areas, kind of just back off and let them concentrate on the show.
Yeah.
You'll have plenty of time in front of that and plenty of time after their performance to find them. They're easy to find. I mean, there's 300 plus of them. It's not hard to find them once you get out there. They're easy to locate. And just you can have those discussions with them then, hang out with them, especially between prelims and finals. Tons of time there to hang out with the kids and talk to them and see if they need anything. Do they want anything from the souvenir store?
Right.
All that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to make a point real quick. Prosper is not green this year. Or yellow. We are red. So some parents may not know this. Have they won the Reds at the game yet?
They have not.
Okay. Prosper is
That's such a different thing for me, not to have your school colors on your marching band uniform.
same. Even at Bell, I mean, it was some sort of blue, and you could always sort of tell. Okay, that's probably Bell over there because
Right.
it's a very navy blue. So.
Did y'all have what are the uniforms made out of these days? Are they still wool or is it something else?
No, so they've kind of gone the route of comfort, I believe. Do you know what the material is?
I would liken it to kind of like a lightweight polyester.
Oh, really?
And I'm totally guessing on that. But, yeah, just from what I've seen of them.
Gosh,
They're a lot more comfort driven now.
I remember the thick wool uniforms in the 100-degree heat. Oh my goodness!
It's a sweatshop.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I probably lost a lot of weight, which maybe that's what I need to do now. But
Just go march around on a field.
that's
in
what
a
I need to
wool
do.
marching
Gosh, if I'd worn trash bags under that, I'd been like skin and bones.
Absolutely.
So, what was I going to say? I would absolutely encourage parents to go see their kids. It's what we talked about in a previous episode about how you're especially I can just speak for a boy because that's what I know with having two boys and being a boy myself. Is that man when your kids go out and they try to do something big, they want to look to the stands and see their parents there. They're gonna know it, and this is a great opportunity for parents to just sometimes physical presence is just everything,
Right.
and you don't want to create that void with them. So anyway, I don't want to get preachy, but that is huge.
Yeah,
absolutely huge.
Just go and realize that this is what your child has chosen to do, and we understand as people who have been a part of a marching band program that this is not the whole story behind why your child is in marching band.
Right.
It's not just to get on the field and march your dot and play your notes. It's so much more than that. You're learning discipline. You're learning what it's like to be a part of a bigger team. And I don't think you really understand what's going on. And I can speak from my father who was a guitar player, who is a guitar player, very skilled musician. Until he saw my brother march in the remaining in 06, which got second at Grand Nationals, he didn't really understand, and I don't think my mom really did either. Perhaps she did because she was in marching band herself. But marching band today is so different than it was back in the 80s and 90s. I think if you have any kind of perspective on marching band today, so I think if you have any marching band perspective from the 80s and juxtapose it with today, you would go, I don't know what happened between the last 25 or 30 years, but I think it's a lot cooler now. I think that's a good word to put
More
on it.
theatrical,
Yes.
definitely.
Oh, yeah.
It's more aimed to entertain and tell a story. So can you talk to us about the first time that you saw a show at Prosper, and then maybe compare it to how Prosper is now, just as far as the quality of it, and how it's different now than it was in Drew's maybe first show as a freshman?
Yeah, the first show that Drew was part of was Winged Victory. The props, at the time they had props on that show, which we don't this year. The props were, I guess, giant round stands that had big black wings that came out off the top of them, and the kids would get up on them and position throughout the show on top of them at times. From what I remember of that show, it was very good at the time, but I think compared to what they're doing this year, that show was very basic.
Yep.
I think in talking with Drew and understanding the drill, the music, even the color guard at this point, that show was very basic and straightforward. I think it goes back to what we were talking about with Mr. Ulster, and that was just part of the plan to build them every year and stretch them out a little bit more every year to make them better and better.
Right.
So when I look back across that show compared to this show has so much really fast drill. I think at times it's very complicated drill, and the music is really, really good this year.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
It's a ton of
So
dirty.
your first year going to a contest, and one of the reasons why we definitely want to have you on is that you've become the guru for the other parents on marching contests, and
As per Ann Scahill.
yeah. Another shout out to Ann Scahill.
Thanks, Ann.
And it's a big thing with parents. Okay, story. I remember when I was in marching band. We marched a show at a football game, and our band, for whatever reason, it just fell apart. I mean, it was awful. And I don't know why. I don't know. It was one of the years I think we made state, so it wasn't that we had a bad band. It just was a bad show that particular game. And my mother, God bless her, not a musician.
She was being a good mother, okay?
At the end of the show, and I think I remember seeing her, she was the only person that stood up and just cheered her as loud as she could, because she was just being supportive. And then she looked around and went, oh, people are clapping like golf clap.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, anyway,
You're
she
on
had
the
no
field
idea.
going, Mom, sit down.
Yeah, Mom, sit down. So when at your first contest, you were able to see Prosper, you were able to see some of the other bands, and were you able to see a difference? And if so, could you figure out what it was? Because I would imagine now you can see you know what to look for.
Yes.
But so what in the early contest, what did that look like for you?
So in the early contest, I mentioned the show Winged Victory, Drew's freshman year. Very straightforward show. It was a good show, nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But then you look at that show, and the show that really sticks out to me that year from a different school was Flower Mound's show. I don't remember the name of it. I know that the colors were very light blue, so they were enacting something about Leonardo's flying machine or something.
I think it was the Da Vinci Code. I don't know
Maybe
if
that's
that
what
was
it was.
exactly what it was, but that was the concept of
Yes.
the show, and they had these birds on their head.
That's a fun
and
concept.
this one of the kids, he would dress up as a bird, and they were fixing his wing, and he was jumping off a ramp, and I'm like, wow, I was blown away by it. I mean,
Right.
just everything that was going on, the music, the motion, the change out, the costumes. I was like, wow, that is something else. That's
Yeah. So it was the general effect.
yes, just the effect of the show. When you bring it all together, just the effect that the show had on you.
So even people who don't necessarily know anything about marching band, maybe perhaps a parent whose freshman child is in a show for the first time, they might find themselves going to this competition and going, wow, this is really, really entertaining. You know, they might actually put the phone away and get drawn into. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is something that I think would be surprising to most people. Just as a lived experience with my parents, I always mention it. They are very entertained by marching band. It's something that they just didn't even know. I mean, now they ask me when Prosper competitions are. You know, like, wait, right. when is Prosper going to HEB or whatever? Because they want to come out and check it out.
Right.
And that is a complete, like, I'm not even part of the show this year. I'm not really a marching tech. So
I thought you were.
I was, and then there's a total rabbit hole. So I'll check it every now. I'll target a kid. I'll yell at them, and then I'll leave. So that's the
best way. That's kind of my role. I walk in, I cause chaos, and I go and say, "All right, you pick up the pieces."
You're the grandparents with sugar sticks,
right? Sugar stick, or like the whip.
Yeah, one of the two. So, what we had mentioned earlier is that there is a preliminary competition and then a finals competition. So, talk to us about the different. What's the difference between prelims and finals?
Sure, prelims and finals. So. Prelims, that's kind of it's the first round of judging. That's how the judges get to see each band, rate them according to whatever criteria they're using for scoring, and then based off that rating, that's how they determine who will be in finals. It doesn't necessarily go by class. You will see competitions where you'll have 6A schools, 5A schools, 4A schools, all in competition together in the finals. It just depends on the quality of the band, really. That's how they get into the finals. How good are they? And that's what the prelim rounds are for, so the judges can see everybody, hear everybody one time, evaluate them accordingly in them off the finals.
What do you notice that they're looking for?
So number one, the biggest thing I think is music. Obviously, that's kind of what a band is. They're out there to play music. That's their thing. Music. Second thing is marching fundamentals. Are the lines clean? How difficult is the drill? And even, I'm getting a better grasp of it this year. It's even more of the little things like the footwork. Are they marching in time?
Right.
How are they positioning their feet? Even when they're standing still, how are they positioned? What do those feet look like?
Yeah.
It's even, is an individual marching flat-footed? Are they getting their toes up in the air? I've heard a lot of the directors preaching that this year to the younger kids at practice. You have to get your toes up in the air, curl those toes up, get them up in the air. So it's a combination of all those things. And then even above that, it's, you mentioned it just a minute ago, the general effect of the show. How does all that come together? The music, the marching, the uniforms, the color guard. How does all that interact together to tell the story?
Yeah. So it's very much like any piece of entertainment, right? Like when you're watching a movie, you're looking for how if you're attuned to it, you're listening for how the music sort of accompanies what's going on film and how those pieces interact and how different all the scenery and the cast and the music all come together to create this product.
Yeah.
So that is, you're absolutely right in that there will be judges that are looking at the feet and the music, but just so that parents know, there are actual judges that are completely dedicated to the overall effect that the show has on you. Now, I don't know that that's the case at HEB marching contest. I have to admit, I don't know the judging panel. I know that there are no on-field judges at HEB. That's a BOA thing,
right? Yeah. So, as someone who's evaluating a show objectively with a drill. And either one of you could take this. What kinds of things are they looking for to? I mean, okay, yeah, you could say, well, the drill's cool, or it's not cool, or wow, they're making a lot of blocks and those blocks are nice. But what are some of the specifics?
To me, it's, you just mentioned, like, you'll see the blocks, the ovals, the circles. I look at that as those are very rudimentary shapes. They're easy to make. Depending on how fast they're moving, it might be really easy to do. It might be more difficult to do. What I look for is when they start, and I really don't know how to say it the best way, so I'm just very basic. When you start to see the lines and the different configurations and they're moving in and out of there, and it's a very fast tempo, that's when I think, okay, that drill's difficult. Those kids are marching very quickly, and it's more of a technical shape. or movement that they're doing. They just didn't go out there and make a block and stand there and take 2 or 3 steps.
You're making a really good point, and I don't even know if you know the magnitude of it, but that's a huge thing. We got a lot of credit my senior year whenever we won BOA San Antonio for. We didn't have the cleanest drill, and if you look at the remaining, the drill was not very clean, but it's challenging. So a lot of these programs will take the easy route, the easy way out, so to speak, which is, march around and then stand in a block and play, and then march around and then stand in the block. What we try to do at Prosper is march really fast with a lot of complicated and crazy drill, and then play Verdi on top of that. Right. We played Shostakovich on top of that my senior year, and we got a lot of credit for being able to play stuff like Shostakovich marching at 170, 180, if you don't know what that is.
That's fast.
60 beats per minute is what the clock is doing right now. Multiply that by 3. That's about what we were doing.
Right.
So
Ben, when you're working as a tech, and this year you're working or not working as a tech.
I'm retired.
You're retired. But what kinds of things were you when you would watch a band do the drill? Were you harping on with the kids?
So I was very micro. So in marching band, it's important to distinguish that there is micro and there's macro. I was a very micro person, so and specifically music. So I would listen to individual brass players' sounds and direct them and try to encourage them to. Let's say there was a crescendo happening or there are accents on these notes. I mean, we get down to we are scrutinizing individual notes in this ginormous program of 330 people. I'm on the field telling that person that they need to accent that E flat a little bit more.
Right.
So if you're talking about the detail that we get into, that's exactly where I'm at. And then I'll also tell people to get their toes up. Mm-hmm. Hey, make sure on this hip switch that you get around a little bit more. Keep your shoulders towards the front of the audience. It's a lot of fast-paced information, and the good thing is the kids here in Prosper can handle it.
Yeah.
And the kids at any high-level program can handle it, and they can take it in, and they don't get overwhelmed. I get a lot of yes sir, right, which is awesome to hear as a tech, but it's a lot of micro work, and then what you have is the directors up in the box, and they do the macro, where they're looking and they're saying, hey, person X, make sure you scoot into the form there. Mm-hmm. Okay, on that last run, watch, and it's so. What I want people to understand is it's so specific. I mean, we do not generalize comments. We are very. We're hitting the nail on the head, trying to hit the nail on the head every single time we open our mouth.
Right.
So,
hey, Bobby, you need to be on your left foot, not your right foot.
Yeah, please. Yeah, the day before.
Hey, Sally,
HEB.
your posture makes you look like a weirdo. Stand up straight. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which is great to hear at a big booming stadium.
Right. What some of the things that I know that I've looked for, and I'm sorry if I cut you off, but
no, you're
good. We would, when I was in band, back when rocks were soft. It seems like that way. The spacing, from one person to the next, are they equidistant from each other, or is there a big gap that there shouldn't be? There's no kid sick. Well, it shouldn't look like there's a kid sick. I remember with blocks, when the marching band would go into a big block, that's one of those things that's very revealing, especially when they stop. Are they straight? Are the lines straight? Know? And if you want to get really crazy detailed, are the diagonals straight? I remember that too. So, when you're in the middle of a block as a marcher, you're looking forwards, you're looking to the side, and you're also looking down your diagonals to see, are you in the right spot? And man, when a band hits that, where you see all these lines, all the place, and it's just straight. Holy smokes!
Mm-hmm. It's kind of intimidating.
Yeah. That it's one of the most powerful things that I've seen. So and then circles, I've always found to be really hard.
Oh, they're the hardest
because they can look like ovals quick.
Yes.
To actually make it look like a circle or not like some sort of weird looking square or anything like that.
That was I don't know if you know this, but that was the show title to our senior year back.
Weird Looking Square?
weird looking squares. And man, we nailed it, man. We won everything. So no, it was the Circle's Edge, and we started out, I believe, in 5 different circles.
Yeah. That was the one that had the poetry at the beginning, right?
We had a lot of poetry at a lot of the beginnings of our shows. That was kind of our modus operandi.
It was an interesting show. They began with do you remember who was saying it? The recording? It was some lady that was pre-recorded doing poetry as they got in circles, and then LD Bell always did this like worship the sun routine where they would get down on their knees and like bow down to a colorblind person. Which so I was in this. I was in the press box every morning watching the band rehearse at the stadium, and so
were you teaching lessons at the stadium?
Yeah, I was there every morning.
That's crazy.
It's my favorite place to ever teach lessons. Is in the press box of Pennington Field.
That would have been really neat.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So I want to talk about what the feeling is of finals, especially just at these competitions. Why is finals, besides the fact that you're not burning up anymore because finals typically start at about 7.
Right. It'll cool down to about 90 degrees because it's Texas.
Yes.
Right.
Until November, and then it'll be -20.
Right. Yeah.
So why is finals different than prelims, and why should parents go watch both prelims and finals? And if they have if they have to make a choice to only go to see one, which one do you think they should go see? There's a lot of questions. Quick fire.
Wow. Okay, so if you had to pick one to go see, I would say finals. However, you're running a risk of if the band doesn't make finals, you don't see them.
I didn't even think about that.
You don't see them.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I would expect that we would make finals in all of our competitions this year. One of them we'll see, but one of them we'll see about. But the rest, I'm really confident that we will make finals. But that is the risk by waiting to go see them in finals. The difference between prelims and finals is, like I said, I think that's the first opportunity for the judges to see the bands in prelims. They see a lot of bands across the day. They do take breaks. There are a few breaks in there, but they see a lot of bands throughout the day, and they're judging. That's what I want the parents, hopefully, to understand. They're not judging band against band. They're judging a band on their merits.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for especially new parents to understand, because you see one band come out, another band, and you're like, how do they know? Well, they're judging them on their merits, not against each other. Finals, now that they've seen them, they kind of have an expectation and an understanding of, okay, this is what I'm going to see when this band comes out. I don't know that they do. My gut tells me that when they get to finals, they're judging a little bit more stringent than they do in prelims, because now they know, okay, these are the best 10 we have here. Let's put them to the test and see how they do.
Yep. Right. So a lot of, perhaps people don't know this, at a lot of competitions, whenever they do finals, they'll do bands that place 12th through 7th will fill the first 6 spots randomly. So the person who plays 7th might go first.
Right.
As far as, so, and then obviously the top 6, 1 through 6, will go last. So that kind of gives the judges an idea. Because, I mean, just truth be told, the performances are a performance. So you're probably not going to jump from 10th place in prelims to 2nd place in finals. Right. You're probably going to be, you're going to either go down more or less, go up or down more or less like 2 or 3 spaces. I know my senior year, we got 2nd in prelims and jumped to 1st in finals. And that's about the biggest jump that you're going to see, 12th to 11th. I don't know, Prosper went from 7th in semis at Grand Nationals to 11th last year in finals.
Yes.
So very strange, because we all thought the run in finals was so much better than the run in semis.
Yeah.
We got through semis and we didn't think we were going to make finals. Very strange, but
You never know. That's the thing that's
Yeah.
that's a little tough about it.
And that brings up a good point, I think, especially for new parents to understand it. At the bigger competitions that we go to, there may be a prelim panel of judges and then a finalist panel of judges. And as much as I hate to say it, this is not football or basketball where you perform an action and you get a set amount of points.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of times, the judges are out there and it's judges' preference and what are they looking for? What's that judge feel? And it's really down to personal preference sometimes from the judges. And I think that's where you see those discrepancies at time, and you're like scratching your head, how did that happen? But it is what it is.
It is hard to be objective, and I think that's why they have multiple judges, is to try to take it from the subjective to the objective.
I believe there are 6, and they break it down by category.
Right. Yeah, but it's tough, I mean, how do you compare a band who's, I mean, is as unified as I know that UIL and BOA and all this has tried to make their judging across the board? I mean, there's only so unified you can get.
Right, and subjectivity is a huge thing, and you could take. I always think of this, and I thought about this in high school too. Take the McDonald's Whataburger thing, where if you have 10 people who are like, let's say In-N-Out, In-N-Out versus Whataburger. People are like, In-N-Out, 5 people will say In-N-Out is so much better. 5 people will say, what's the defining factor? It's your opinion.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that goes on in the music world, I mean, I played my all-state music my senior year for a ton of people. Mm-hmm. And if I played for 10 people, I would get 10 different opinions about something. Right. And they would go so far as to say that other opinions were stupid.
Yeah.
So it's very, very subjective to an extent. Obviously, there are some bands that are just not going to beat Flower Mound ever or Prosper. But as far as subjectivity goes, yeah, and just also just for general information, the judges do switch between prelims and finals. They will not judge the same category. Okay. So if you have music judge, so they'll do visual judge 1, visual judge 2. This is generic. I don't know if this is exactly what's going to go on this weekend, but just speaking generally, music 1, music 2, and then general effect 1, general effect 2. And then that entire panel will just scatter.
So they will do general effect in this contest this weekend.
I believe so.
Yes, they do at HEB.
Okay,
I may get a text and be like, "Hey, Dumbo, they don't do it at HEB," but I think they do.
Right.
Because that's a little outdated to not do general effect, because that's the entire design of the show now is what kind of general effect we're looking at.
Does UIL still not do general effect?
Yes, they still do not do general effect.
So that's an interesting thing. Yes. Is the difference between the BOA contest and the UIL contest, and what types of bands do well at both?
I just remembered something to the point that we were making, just because you brought up UIL. Prosper, do you know what I'm talking about?
I was going to bring it up, then I thought I probably shouldn't.
So at I don't know if you remember this, at 5A State, man, finals. We had a judge in music. Out of 10, we had 2 music judges watching the same performance in the same place, live at the same time, in the same booth. Mm-hmm. One judge gave us first in music, and another judge gave us last in music.
Yeah, that was, for me, that one was hard to take.
Right.
Knowing that in prelims, we came in third, 2 points out of first, to drop to 7th. Mm-hmm. And that was my whole point. You mentioned it a while ago. At that level, at the state level, BOA, super regionals, whatever you want to call it, at that level of competition, bands don't fall that far.
Yeah.
There should not be big a discrepancy in where you place. I agree. You can move 1 or 2, maybe 3. You don't fall that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big moment. I had gotten a text from Preston Beck at the time, and he was telling me that they had gotten 7th, and man, the kids were just devastated, understandably so.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're close, you're like, man, we're 2 spots away from first, and then you drop to 7th, and what can you do about it? I think I did the calculations, and had that judge put us 4th, we would have gotten 3rd again.
Right.
So it wasn't even one of the situations where they had to put us first.
Yeah.
It's just if they could have, it was a very interesting thing. So they're very powerful judges.
Yeah.
And their decision goes a long way.
Yes.
So
that is the thing that's frustrating about music. I mean, if we're, in general, and then we're talking like middle school through professional levels. I mean, I can't tell you how many times with professional auditions where you can just nail the snot out of your audition, and
You just don't get. You just
you
don't.
just don't get it because for some reasons that are completely out of your control, and but you just do your best and let the cards fall where they will. That's just how it is.
That is a great point too. So, can you talk on just from a competitive perspective? Like, we're all, I'm sure, competitive in our own right, but as a parent overall, like, why would I be excited that my child is doing marching band?
So that's a great question. I go back to thinking when Drew first started. It's marching band, sure. It's the kids aren't out there playing technically a game, but when you get in the stands, whether it's prelims, finals, just the competitive nature of people, especially in the stands, come out. I mean, you wanting your band to shine and be the best and win.
Yeah.
You have to understand that a lot of these bands are really good and they're going to be very close, so things do fluctuate back and forth. But that competitiveness does come out, and I have to be very careful about it. So you have to be careful what you say in the stands, because it's not like a traditional game where these supporters are over here, other supporters are on the other side of the field. You're sitting in a mixed audience with 10 or 11 bands, especially in the finals, 10 or 11 bands and several hundred people all mixed together. So you have to be careful about what you say. But that competition, it definitely does come out.
Because what people say will come back to the program. Like, if you're wearing a shirt that tells you where you're from. So if you think that, and I mean, I see it all the time. I'll see, parents with certain shirts on and they're saying things they shouldn't be saying. And I'm wish I could just caution them and say, hey, there's going to be a nicely written email about you. And you will be found out. Someone will find out who you are. So I think there's a couple more points that I want to get to.
Well, do we finish this point about why would we want a kid to do a marching band?
I was going to circle kind of back around.
Okay.
It's a very broad question. But I guess to be more specific, what do you think? What skill sets has Drew acquired besides good marching technique? What skill sets? He puts that on his application whenever he goes to get there. I have great forward technique.
Right.
What skill sets is he equipped in life now that he will never not have? You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's the one thing I've noticed. They learn so much more than just music and how to march. They learn teamwork. They learn leadership, responsibility, because each person out there has a role in the show and the performance. But that shows them that others do count on me, whether it's this or in a job or whatever the case may be. There's just so much that they learn that they can take on through the rest of their lives, not just the music and the marching. Responsibility, teamwork. So that's what I've liked about it, and we see that in Drew now, in some things. When it comes to his music, I mean he's very serious about it, and he's applied himself a great deal, and that's his career path for life. He's already chosen, so I think that's great. Cool. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Yep, he wants to be a band director.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
He said he got into UNT.
Yeah, well, he hasn't auditioned yet, but he got into the university.
Right.
Okay, so you working on those excerpts?
Yeah.
That's a whole different animal, man. It's the college excerpts.
It's interesting because I try to peg kids early that want to do that, because really on a college, and this is opening a can of worms that I want to try to get back in, but your college audition is a portfolio of all the things you've done.
Sure.
Really, and so it's to do correctly, you do this multi-year plan of stuff. And so, anyway, we've been preparing for Drew's audition for years.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel bad. I have a student who wants to be a music major, and I've kind of dabbled in excerpts every now and then, but in the middle of the all-state process, in the middle of marching season, in the middle of senior year, I'm throwing on excerpts on top of that, and I'm going, all right, here's the hardest music you've ever played in your entire life. Let's learn it real quick. It's in a different clef.
Right.
So lastly, just because you have a very unique perspective for the podcast. What do you have anything else that you would say to parents who perhaps are new, or even parents who are experienced? Like what advice do you have, if anything? Basically, it's like an open floor. Like, is there any last comments that you would have to parents about this first? Because we were talking about competitions here, so about competitions, about marching season, and perhaps even into the rest of the year. Any advice?
Sure. The first thing is just so this weekend it really starts for us. I think it's 5 competitions in 6 weeks. It's going to be crazy busy. Your kids are going to be really tired between football games on Friday night, competitions on Saturday, getting ready to go to San Antonio. Just know that they're going to be really tired, and give them a little grace. Sure. Help support them. They'll have a ton of pressure on them. And I think that's important for us to know as parents, especially at the level Prosper's achieved now. It's not just, Prosper snuck into the competition and made finals. Now people have that expectation of it. So I'm sure our kids are feeling pressure, so whatever we can do to help support them and alleviate that pressure, because they are a really, really good band. I personally believe, just from what I've seen this year, they're going to have a phenomenal year.
Yep.
I really do. This show, I've seen enough of the show to think, and the music, just to think, man, this could be their year. They really, I tell Drew this all the time, and I don't take anything away from the future of the program, but there'll never be another year like this year.
Yeah.
It's the final year. They have 3 years of experience on the field that has been very successful. It's at this level, and all the talent is in one location.
Yep.
Take advantage of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great advice. I think that's a great cap to the show. I think any band parent who's looking for information about competition season could get a lot out of this episode. Do you have anything else?
Yeah. Excuse me. October is we're almost there. That's a tough month.
Yes, it is, and I always kind of forget about it.
Yeah,
until it comes back around.
There are two parts of the year that I think are really tough. This is the second toughest for me, because I think the toughest part of the year is from spring break to about the middle of May, because it just seems to go on forever. But this is also a tough part of the year because, it's just, especially in the marching band world, it seems like every weekend there is just something going on, and the kids come to lessons, and every week they're just a little bit more of a zombie. And so the lessons become less about like, okay, let's just get down to work, and more about, all right, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We can get there. Just endure to another day. And I know that's the role I have to play, especially as that goes on. And then once they get past it, that they feel that sense of accomplishment. But
right,
it's a tough month.
Yeah, I think I remember when I was taking lessons with Mr. Fife at Bell. There's a lot of times where, when previously if I had come in unprepared, there would be a little bit of, expectation of like, hey, or I guess you would say, why are you unprepared? But during marching season, it's just like, hey, man, I'm happy you're still around. Glad
you're still breathing.
Still making it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very busy and hectic time.
Yeah.
And yes, I think taking a Sunday morning to sleep until noon is absolutely necessary sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, with that said, students, that's not your excuse to be unprepared.
I mean, my
Do your
students
best.
can be unprepared. There you go.
You cannot be unprepared. Yeah. But I mean, it's just it's like you're crawling forward. Just keep fighting forward, and especially on your own personal practice. You're just clawing forward.
Right.
As best as you can.
Because all region season is about a month out.
Yeah. Once marching band's over, it's just now you're auditioning for all region. It's like, and there's always that crunch, that panic that students have.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness, it's only a few weeks away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, a huge thanks to Mr. Evan Jones for
Absolutely,
being on the
yeah.
podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's an early morning, isn't it?
That's all right. This was great.
All right. Well, signing off. Bye.